Are we ready? Starting?
Let's start. Do you think there is tax terrorism in India या फिर ये एक buzzword है ट्विटर पे?
डिपेंड करता है. आई थिंक वही टेररिस्ट फील करता है जो जिसको टैक्स का ऑर्डर आता है एंड डज नॉट हैंडल इट because that's the way it is. But by and large, things are much better now than they used to be. Though there are forms of, like for instance, जो Vodafone case में हुआ था वो बहुत बदतमीज था. It was a situation where Vodafone had followed the law at the time they had done it, because the situation was कि Indian company है, it is owned by a Hong Kong company. Instead of selling the Indian company's shares, they sold the shares of the Hong Kong company. So effectively, the owner of that Hong Kong company is now the owner of the Indian company. Ownership has transferred. So instead of saying, oh, we did not think of it like this, therefore he pays no tax because he's in Hong Kong. Why don't we do this? If there's an indirect ownership in India, then we will tax India going forward.
Exactly.
But they said, no, we'll go back. And that is nonsense, because now you are creating fear in the minds of anybody who's coming to India saying आज जो tax law है पता नहीं क्या होगा, कल कुछ और हो जाएगा. This was nonsense. It was promoted by the then finance minister and all that stuff, who gave into the bureaucracy. The bureaucracy has reasons to, because they have targets and all that stuff, they want to win under any circumstance. The bureaucracy has a lot of evil elements, good elements also. But there's a lot of evil elements. Evil elements in the sense, my win is more important than your security, safety, stability, and all that stuff.
And logic.
And logic. Because I am the my baap. I am the guy in power. Kya kar loge tum? And this mentality has to be broken by a very strong political arm. It has often happened where the politicians have come and broken the back of a lot of the bureaucracy and, chained them or moved them out of their comfort zones, and things have changed. The most important thing was license Raj. When they removed it, nobody in the bureaucracy would have liked it because it had reduced their power. But it was deemed important at the time. The guy who did it was a bureaucrat at some level, but it was run by a politician. It was the politician's hand that kind of got it done. To that extent, when you have tax terrorism of any sort, you should assume that it is an overzealous bureaucrat that has designed this law to be unfavorable, and therefore they are trying to get the political establishment to agree that dekho, these people are only trying to steal our money, therefore we should create these laws that make them difficult. Like for instance, right now there's a tax on, one of these companies, Volkswagen. Volkswagen ka problem hai, India has two kind of laws saying if you import all the parts of a car in one shipment, specifically in the law it is written one shipment, or so you import it and then use it to make a car. It's called a CKD, a completely knocked down car, and there is a certain amount of tax on it. However, if you make the car here already and import only spare parts, you're fine. Or you import maybe one or two parts of the car and make the car, you're fine, you're much lower tax. So what Volkswagen did was, over a period of time, over multiple shipments, imported many parts of the same car. All these parts were eventually put together to make the car, for the most part. And then they sold the car. Now that car obviously has lower tax, 15% versus 35%, whatever. So then the government said, this is not the spirit of the law. This is not how it's supposed to be done. Now, I understand that there is a problem. कि ये नहीं होना चाहिए. Or you can't import parts in multiple shipments and then say, make it a car and say, you said one shipment, so this thing. So you should change the law to say multiple shipments from now on.
Yeah.
Will attract full tax if we discover this. Fine. That everybody would have been fine with that. Except what they said was, what you did in the past was also wrong. But they're saying what we did in the past was in the law. It was allowed, and you should therefore allow it. We should respect that if people have in any ways use the law to their benefit for whatever reason, then only thing you can do is change it going forward. You can't go back to them and say that this is wrong. Bureaucrats do not like this statement that I've just made. कि मतलब क्या तुम ही मतलब इंटरप्रेट करोगे, हम तो जाएंगे, हम बोलेंगे ये रॉन्ग था. They will take you to court. The court should be more cognizant and very straightforward. The courts in India by and large have been straightforward in the sense of saying Some stuff is nonsense. Now, if you go and make this a law by retrospective, that I think is tax terrorism. The misinterpretation of a tax act because you want to misinterpret it for your own benefit is perhaps overzealous bureaucracy, but this will happen anyways because you could read any regulation in multiple ways until a court passes a judgment.
And you have the highest paid people working for these companies
Yes.
who are trying to do all of this.
Which
right?
is fine.
Which
And
is
to
fine,
be fair, there's something called minimum alternate tax. Why is it there? It is because of one guy. His name is Dhirubhai Ambani. For about 15 years, Dhirubhai Ambani paid no tax at all. Literally, if you wanted to know what the next mechanism to save tax was, you had to find out what Dhirubhai Ambani was doing in the tax department. Because they would find the appropriate loophole in the tax code and use it to absolute extent. In the end, the government gave up. He said, we cannot beat this guy. Then put minimum alternate tax. So if after all your deductions, you finally come to a point where you're not paying tax, pay minimum 20%.
But उसकी वजह से बाकी धंधों को भी नुकसान हो रहा
So
होगा.
सबका हो गया. तो जिसका natural, like for instance, you say that if I have a loss on if I have a large depreciation, that depreciation amounts for me to a point where I don't pay any tax. It could be that the government says that boss net off this depreciation because it was a special depreciation and pay 20% tax on the remaining. Then you can adjust it against future years. This MAT credit, it is called. MAT credit carried on in companies' books for such a long time that you would not know when this company would eventually end up paying tax or not. Because the MAT was always there. There was always a 20%. So even if you had exemptions for certain things, you would end up paying 20%. Even, by the way, that MAT thing was there until I think then the new tax rule came where 25% became the new tax rule. That was a tax easing. Then they said, listen, you'll have to marfify all the past MAT credit, make it zero. So when companies announced results, their results showed that I have lost all the MAT credit. So not that I'm paying lesser tax now, but because I have accumulated so much MAT credit, wo gaya. So that means I have lost the effective tax benefit of that much MAT. And therefore, that's a loss for me. So the first set of results were actually negative, and then it became positive after that. So taxes have various.
But you're saying things are better now?
Things are better because of the way they've changed the system, perhaps to a little bit of faceless assessment. Faceless assessment has goods and bads, but by and large good because then it's not an officer that will demand something and you have to pay and all that. But one thing is there. The government is very keen on ensuring that tax compliance is high. Which means that if you have done certain things where they believe that they have precedent to demand tax from you, like the startup tax. Startup tax for the longest time was nonsense. A startup raises money, you suddenly call it income because you decide that the company should not be worth 4 million, it should be worth 1 million, and that extra 3 million you should be paying tax on. Yeah, what nonsense is this? But this was again a tax terrorism created 15 years ago, 13 years ago, and I was one of the first guys on Twitter, or that time I think there was Twitter, but I noted it at that time saying, what nonsense is this? This gives too much power to the income tax department. And I called it at that time, it was called the startup tax, or now it's called the angel tax. But I called it the startup tax. I even made a book about it. I said, but this is the problem. Because you cannot have a system that penalizes you for raising money for whatever valuation. And the reason why it came, because some random cement company raised a lot of money at a very high valuation from another cement company. And that extra money that it raised was supposed to be a bribe because a politician owned this cement company that was raising money. So therefore, they said, how can you value this company at 1,000 crores and give 2% to this other company who gave them 20 crores? That 20 crores is a bribe. Or to avoid this, it's like, I don't know, man, you're using a steamroller to try and kill a mosquito. The mosquito is not going to die. It is not, technically, and you're just steamrolling everybody else. The politician did not stop taking bribes, for sure. You know this, and forget it, not know this. Your own income tax department will probably be sitting with a politician and telling him how are the different ways to take bribes legally. But in the process, you've gone and steamrolled and killed everybody else. This is tax terrorism, according to me, because now you're creating a law that makes it difficult for people to do things that were otherwise normal because you found this random edge case that has nothing to do with reality. I think in India, we should change this mentality. It's better to have an investigative mentality than to have a mentality of banning and licensing and gating things, because that is so broad based. It gives too much arbitrary power. And the same thing, and I'm in the financial sector, we are regulated. The regulators also sometimes go overboard in their rule making simply because they feel that something has happened, therefore everybody should be punished. And I feel that that is not the right way to do things. Because if you find somebody has done something bad, there are no controls over certain things, you find that person and tell them, you please enforce your controls properly. Instead of enforcement, you're just putting gates. That I think is a terrible part. It's Indian mentality. You know, it's like this. You go, why does Ed Sheeran get stopped from making a song?
Yeah.
I mean, because किसने बोला आपको लाइसेंस मिला एक गाने आपने दो गाने से गा लिया. How do you know? I'm like, what nonsense. But yeah, but you know what? We are like that. लाइसेंस मिला था ना एक का, तो एक ही करो. ये क्या है? Who gave somebody permission to give license to sing on the streets? It's in the first place. I mean, I understand if it's a dharna. You know, this person's entertaining people. It's making people happy. Why would you have a problem with this? No, but nahi. I mean, we have to be killjoy. But you can do a dharna for as long as you like.
on the railway tracks.
And you, as more people you have, you know, wearing dhotis or whatever, the better it is. This is the problem. We rather have gates than understand the nuance of a problem. I think the same thing, if there was a different person coming in there, even let us say a Bollywood singer or something like that, who came and sang over there, maybe the result would have been slightly different. It's like the police wala who does not like Ed Sheeran is saying, I'm going to use my power to stop Ed Sheeran because I have the power. We have to get to a society where power is no longer arbitrary. The person can say, what right do you have to stop me? And the police officer will actually say, okay, you're right, I don't have the right to stop you. I have only the right to inform you that you cannot do this anymore. But if you know, then there will be a warrant and all that stuff. I have to get a warrant, only then can I do something to you and all that. ये जाके destroying other people.
तो time लगेगा. Utopian scenario की बात कर रहे हैं.
हाँ नहीं, but I mean मैं कह रहा हूँ कि we will not evolve as a society without ups and downs. We have not seen downs. We have only seen ups. So, you know.
ठीक है. So on the individual level, अभी जो 2025, so middle class बोलता है कि हमारे साथ tax terrorism हो रहा था, right? No rebate on tax. Indirect taxes, और उसके बाद भी हमारे को indirect taxes बहुत बढ़ने पड़ रहे थे. Do you think after this debate is settled after the latest budget?
No, I mean not really. So every budget has something. Last year it was 7 lakhs. Today it's 12. Not meaningfully higher from a higher income point of view. It is reasonably good from a lower income point of view, but it just puts more money in the pockets of people who are otherwise spending. Now, what this will do is effectively switch over the tax rates to indirect tax. Indirect taxes are regressive. Progressive means the more you earn, the more tax you pay. Regressive means you pay the same regardless of how much. But the government is happier earning the regressive tax because the regressive in India is almost progressive. The poorer people in India spend most of their money on food, where the GST is very less. The minute you go to food in a restaurant, your GST goes up. The minute you go to, you can eat an ice cream, take it away, it's 5% GST. You eat in the restaurant, it's 18% GST. So and you know what I mean. So it's they have just decided that they're going to make the progressive elements of GST itself. Oh, you want to eat sugar, it's 12% GST. You want to eat maida, it's 5% GST. You want to eat eggs, it's a little bit. So it's like...
I feel like going into the popcorn debate with you now.
The popcorn is the popcorn's arbitrary because there will be arbitrariness in some of these things.
No, I was just kidding. But go on. In the sense, I mean, you're saying as I go for premium products, I pay more in indirect taxes.
In that sense. And then the problem is the arbitrariness is what is called premium. Exactly like popcorn. What difference does it make if I put caramel on my popcorn? No, it is bad. You have to pay more GST. Because they have decided that's the progressive nature of the GST instead of making a pure regressive nature, which would have been a 12% standard for everything.
My issue actually was that it that deserved a press conference. 10 minutes, 5 minutes of this thing, when there were some other issues that could have been taken. Anyway, the number of people paying income tax in India was less. Now it is even lesser.
Yes, it's a good thing because income tax to me is So at the low level, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to try and pay a whole lot of income tax. You should pay income tax when you get more money. You should have more money to spend in your pockets at the small level. The reason I like this income tax thing that has changed is because one thing. Today, earlier I used to tell you ki, yaar, you know what, invest 1.5 lakhs in some ELSS, 50,000 in NPS. What is the point of this? 50,000 in NPS for a person who's earning a fairly reasonable amount of money is not going to change this person's life. In 12 years, they will earn 6 lakhs plus some interest, maybe 10, 12 lakhs.
वो 15,000 पे बचा रहा है.
हाँ, वो बेसिकली कुछ
टैक्स बचा रहा है ना,
टैक्स बचा रहा है, करेक्ट. एंड दिस इज अ पर्सन हु इज डूइंग दिस बिकॉज वो 15,000 रुपये देना नहीं चाहता है फॉर वट एवर, बट ही इज स्टॉपिंग एट 50,000. देयर इज नथिंग टेलिंग हिम दैट ही हैज टू स्टॉप एनपीएस एट 50,000.
करेक्ट.
ही शुड बी इन्वेस्टिंग 3 lakhs, बट ही स्टॉपिंग एट 50,000 बिकॉज उसको इंसेंटिव सिर्फ 50,000 का दिया गया. 1.5 लाख आपको ELSS में करना है, इंश्योरेंस में करना है, जो भी आप 1.5 लाख ही करोगे. आपका अगर आपकी ज़रूरत अगर ज़्यादा भी हुई तो what has happened really is the incentives have distorted your saving mechanisms by setting up a cap on that saving mechanism for yourself. And I'll tell you why this is important. This 12 lakh saving is only for people who are in the new regime. There is no tax saving.
Yeah.
So आपको खर्च करना है, खर्च कर लो, आपको बचाना है, बचा लो, आपकी मर्जी है. This is great because it gives you more power. The government is not telling you where to save or where to spend. They say you decide, boss. We understand that you're doing. This is great because you would think that removing such incentives is a bad thing for the industry. My take is it's a good thing. I'll tell you why. India introduced capital gains tax on stocks in 2018. 2018 to now, the stock market has roughly more than 2.5 times. More money has come to mutual funds after the introduction of capital gains tax in equities. More money has come to equity mutual funds than ever before, to the point where 37 to 38 lakh crores is in equity mutual funds today, about half of what is, little bit more than half of what is in the total mutual fund universe, which used to be only 25%, but 75% was debt mutual funds. You've converted the entire set of users who were unwilling, who were saying कि बॉस जीरो टैक्स है तब भी मैं इन्वेस्ट नहीं करूँगा, ELSS था तब भी मैं नहीं करता था. टुडे हाउ मच मनी गोज इनटू equity funds which are not ELSS and how much goes into equity funds which are ELSS? The ratio has increased in the sense people have invested even more money in a non-tax saving product than a tax saving product because you have a new regime. So you removed the incentives and the market has grown. This is in fact almost always the case because you've capped. Otherwise, you keep a cap and saying, oh, I can't do more than 1,50,000. So the person who's earning 40 lakhs a year is doing 1,50,000. Usse kya hoga? That's 3% savings rate. You need to be, I mean, many of these people save 10 to 30% of their income. Where does it go? It'll go to fixed deposit. Sometimes they won't save. They'll only say, kar diya na 1.5 lakh, bas ho gaya. But 1.5 lakh se kuch nahi hota hai. So the government is actually starting to realize this. And what's happened now is the money, the 12 lakhs you save is very interesting. It means if your parents retire, they can put 1.5 crores in an 8% FD each and not pay any tax if they have no other income.
Because income on interest is less than 12.
Is 12 lakhs. So at 12 lakhs, you save no. So basically, I am telling you that you don't have to take any risk. Just put a bank FD of 1.5 crores and you will get 12 lakhs a year tax free. Couple can make 24 lakhs a year tax free without any tax whatsoever, without any risk whatsoever. So आपका risk taking कब आएगा? When you have more money than that. I have 5 crores. So I'll put 3 crores in FD, one person each. 2 crores then I will invest in
equities or something. So you're saying कि it has no, in the sense कि जब से capital gains tax आया है उसके बाद से और पैसा आ रहा है market, but that can also be a function of the markets growing so well, the awareness increasing, SIP सही है, all of those.
But वही तो, it's a reflexive thing. अगर market ऊपर गया है वो इसीलिए है कि लोगों ने इन्वेस्ट करना स्टार्ट किया. अभी तक जो फॉरेन इन्वेस्टर्स पैसा निकाल रहे थे उसका जवाब सिर्फ इंडियन इन्वेस्टर्स इन्वेस्ट कर रहे थे. वही
a lot of retail
investors through mutual funds, through other things and all that. It has never happened. हमारी मार्केट में प्रमोटर के अलावा biggest, even now, the biggest single entity is the FII. Now, foreigners love our stocks more than we do. This is nonsense. Why? Why should they be owning more of our stocks than we do? प्रमोटर को छोड़िए, प्रमोटर तो खुद चलाता है, वो अलग बात है. बट प्रमोटर को छोड़ के अगर देखा जाए तो क्या इतना जो मार्केट बढ़ा है उसका फ़ायदा क्या सिर्फ फॉरेनर को होना चाहिए कि हमारे को भी होना चाहिए इन डिफरेंट वेज. इंश्योरेंस प्लस म्यूचुअल फंड्स प्लस रिटेल कंबाइंड was maybe just about equal to FIIs. And this was till 2020, 2021. It's when it started changing dramatically to the point where today 50% is with promoters, 15-16% is with FIIs, 10% is with retail directly in stocks, around 10 to 11% is with banks and mutual funds and other things, and some few corporates and all that stuff with the others. So essentially today we've come to a point where mutual funds plus retail together own a significantly higher number than FIS. And I think this should be great because we should be owning, India should be owning most of our stock market returns.
Then the segment which is left now, which is paying income tax, has reduced, right? One of the things that is not happening is that the ambit is not being increased, right? More number of people should be paying direct tax. वो नहीं हुआ है अभी.
I think
जो पे कर रहे हैं वो क्यों पे कर रहे हैं आप? मतलब why should they pay? They are now not happy, right?
Why not? I think you're making enough money that it's like saying, boss, 24 lakh per year or या फिर 24 lakh तक, your tax rate is effectively 15%. Or 12.5%. So at 24 lakhs of income for one person, you pay 3 lakh rupees of tax. 3 lakh rupees of tax is equal to 12.5. ये same as capital gain हो गया. So 24 लाख तक आपका टैक्स रेट कुछ है ही नहीं, राइट? एंड why would you not pay tax if it's only 12.5%? Because you're getting all the facilities. I mean, maybe you're not getting all the facilities you want, but there is facilities. Somebody is defending your country. Somebody is running, police and all that stuff. Maybe it's not as efficiently as you want, but it can't come from you not paying tax. It can come only from the efficient use of the money that's collected. By and large, our government is not very big. Unlike the US, where the government is actually very, very big. Our government is not very big in terms of number of people employed. It is more in terms of bad subsidies, bad application of money. That's fine because governments by and large are inefficient. They are not supposed to be efficient because efficiency track करने जाओगे तो फिर goal ही हट जाएगा that way. But okay, at some level, our government is not obscene in terms of size. So to that extent, your tax is actually doing what it can do, and maybe if they were slightly more efficient at it, and there is a lot of leakage because of bribes, that leakage is capped, you would get better roads. It's not like Bangalore does not have, MG Road is great. MG Road has been great forever. There are no potholes in MG Road. Why? It's not like you can't fix potholes in Bangalore, but every other road has a pothole, every other road is bad. So it's the lack of will, the lack of consistency in application. It's not because they can't do it. Gurgaon has great roads. I mean, of course, it's very crowded, but it does have great roads. There is no reason for...
the highways are great.
National highways are fantastic.
As soon as you come to the state is the problem.
Or not the state, I think the city. I do a lot of driving. I can tell you that anything outside Bangalore is a breeze. I have driven to Mangalore, to Goa, to Hubli, Dharwad, anywhere in Karnataka, even in the hills of the Western Ghats, which is where my hometown is. The roads are good. I mean, for the most part. Okay, so what happens really is that there's a lack of it. But the tax thing, why should the...
So that debate is settled now after this, कि ज़्यादा tax नहीं है अभी इंडिया में.
अभी 24 लाख तक तो नहीं है, उसके बाद है ज़्यादा. So after you cross a couple of crores, you're paying 39%. 39% सरचार्ज वगैरह लगा के आप 39% ज़्यादा दे रहे हो. बट ये भी कोई ज़रूरत नहीं. अब एक बात बताओ, आप सब एम्प्लॉयड सैलरीड हो, आप ही अगर अपने कंपनी को बोलते कि मैं कंसल्टेंट बन जाता हूँ, आप मेरे को यही सैलरी आप कंसल्टेंसी में दो, आई थिंक करीबन 1 करोड़ या 75 लाख तक आप उसमें देयर इज समथिंग कॉल्ड क्या कहते हैं वो, डीम्ड इनकम, डीम्ड एक्सपेंसेस, जो भी है वो समथिंग, वेयर यू कैन से 50% ऑफ माई मनी इज एक्सपेंस, बाकी 50% पर टैक्स दे दूंगा. 24 लाख आप ले लो, और 24 लाख में 12 लाख आपका एक्सपेंस, 12 लाख आपका, देयरफॉर टेक्निकली विदाउट शोइंग एनी रिसीट्स विद 24 lakhs ऑफ बिजनेस इनकम यू हैव जीरो टैक्स.
कंपनी भी खुश है कंसल्टेंट रख के, वैसे तो ऑन रोल्स पे
नहीं है.
So what you're saying is कि अगर कोई हायर इनकम ब्रैकेट में है तो अगर
मतलब एक तो कर सकते हो लेकिन नहीं करते हो, तो आप ब्लेम करते हो गवर्नमेंट को क्योंकि आपके पास है ऑप्शन, लेकिन नहीं करना चाहते. क्यों? आपको सिक्योरिटी चाहिए जॉब की. तो आपका अपने सिक्योरिटी पे चाहते हो कि अब मेरी जॉब सिक्योरिटी हो, लेकिन आप एक स्टेप नहीं ले सकते जिसमें थोड़ा सा रिस्क लेके आप अपने टैक्स को आधा कर सकते हो, जीरो को ही कर सकते हो. देन वाई शुड एनीबडी, आई मीन इफ देयर स्टेप्स आर अवेलेबल टू यू, इट इज़ लाइक मैं दुकान के फर्स्ट फ्लोर पे जलेबी है, मैं नहीं चाहूँगा फर्स्ट फ्लोर यार,
लिफ्ट लगाओ.
लिफ्ट लगाओ. तो जब तक आप लिफ्ट लगा,
So majority, I don't know, मैं stats भूल जाता हूँ, but 98%, oh नहीं, sorry, 80 something percent of the taxpayers of the last years fall into the under 12 lakh category. So means the debate is sorted. अब वो road tax लोगों को बहुत चुभ रहा था, आजकल बहुत per kilometer calculations हो रही है. मैं अभी पौंडीचेरी जा गया हूँ, actually है तो सही. What are your thoughts there? When गडकरी जी says कि फोकट में कुछ नहीं मिलेगा, देना पड़ेगा, do you think that's valid? कि मैं road tax दो इतना सारा?
रोड टैक्स
सीधा आर्गुमेंट इज कि मेरी इनकम टैक्स जाती है, फिर मैं गाड़ी खरीदता हूँ टैक्स देता हूँ, फिर मैं पेट्रोल डलवाता हूँ टैक्स देता हूँ, फिर मैं रोड पे जाता हूँ तो फिर मैं फिर टैक्स देता हूँ, जबकि रोड के पैसे तो इनकम टैक्स से हो जाने चाहिए थे फॉर अ सैलरीड पर्सन.
हाँ, सो इंडिया में ऐसे हुआ नहीं. नॉर्वे में एक ज़माना था जब वो वहाँ पे भी काफ़ी आइलैंड्स हैं, तो आइलैंड्स के बीच में या तो टनल्स बनाते हैं या ब्रिजेस बनाते हैं. तो ये जो कॉस्ट है ब्रिज बनाने की या फिर ये टनल्स बनाने की, वो पब्लिक हुआ करता था कि इतना कॉस्ट है और अभी टोल से हमने इतना रिकवर किया है. तो एक टाइम पे उस जब टोल रिकवर हो जाता है विद इंटरेस्ट, तो कहते हैं कि बंद करो अब टोल जीरो, अब फ्री हो जाएगा.
मेक सेंस.
इंडिया में हुआ है. So the government doesn't always have all the money to build all these roads. It takes roughly 20 to 25 crores per kilometer to build a decent road.
कितना?
20 to 25 crores per kilometer.
सही में?
हाँ, it used to be 6 to 7. This is in 2007, but prices have gone up. Cement, ये वो. It's 20 to 25 crores to build a national highway kind of road per kilometer. This is, I'm talking 4 lane. 6 lane is higher. So because it costs that much, 100 kilometers is 2,500. Now 100 kilometers is just halfway from here to Mysore. I mean, a little bit more than halfway from here to Mysore. So you can think that a road to Mysore costs about, say, 4,000 crores. I'm giving you the rough idea. Now, who has to pay this 4,000 crores? If the government has to pay Bangalore to Mysore 4,000, so many stretches in India will cost you at least 600, 700,000 crores. 600, 700,000 crores in roads, new roads to maybe 20% of covering 10% of India or something like that, will probably be roughly 15 to 20% of our government expenditure. Now, the better way to do this is, आप खर्चा कम करो डिफाइन करके. Let Indian inflation come down so that interest rates can be low. We pay 10 lakh crores a year in interest. You and I, we pay 10 lakh crores in interest to the people who buy our bonds. Remove that interest component, bring it down to maybe 5 lakh crores by having a more efficient, better inflation control. And then you can take the 5 lakh extra and spend it on roads, because roads are a good long-term asset.
Actually दिक्कत उन्हीं को ही है जो सब ज़्यादा पैसा कमा रहे हैं और टैक्स भर रहे हैं, और स्पेशली बैंगलोर वालों को ज़्यादा दिक्कत है. बैंगलोर वालों को लगता है हम टैक्स क्यों भर रहे हैं. तो मैं चंडीगढ़ से हूँ, मेरे को लगता है चंडीगढ़ में जब मैं रहता हूँ तो मुझे लगता है कि यार हाँ टैक्स भर के ना
कुछ मिलता है,
काफी कुछ मिलता है. लाइक माई बेसिक सिविक एमिनिटीज आई डोंट इवन हैव टू बॉदर अबाउट. आई एम नॉट सेइंग एवरी सिटी कैन बी लाइक चंडीगढ़, बट एटलीस्ट इट कैन ट्राई टू बी लाइक चंडीगढ़.
But what? I mean, there is nothing wrong in saying that Bangalore cannot be like. Why? Bangalore has all the necessity.
I generally think, so obviously we have broken down things into wards and everything, but मैं बोलता हूँ कि यार चंडीगढ़ लोग बोलते हैं बड़ा छोटा शहर है, तो मैंने कहा ठीक है कोरमंगला को पकड़ लो,
किसी चीज़ को भी पकड़ लो. I mean, Bangalore में HSR layout and Jayanagar, where we are right now, was one of the earliest planned layouts in the city.
अभी भी दिखता है थोड़ा ऐसे.
हाँ, मतलब the crossroad is a crossroad. It's small, main road. But even here, there are places where a main road becomes a crossroad in the next. So वो fight है. But I studied here when I was in the my 1990 to 1992. My college was like down the road. I used to cycle here and all that stuff. Very nice. Great to have come here. But even then, the JP Nagar side of the world was crowded. And there's a place called Sarakki and all that stuff. These were more crowded even at that time and unplanned. Versus Jayanagar was more planned. There's no reason why we could not have been grown in a planned fashion. But we planned what? HSR layout, maybe parts of JP Nagar. Malleshwaram was again unplanned for the most part. There is some part of planning, but not as much. Jayanagar, But Koramangala is completely unplanned. It was a bottom of a lake at some point. Half of it was that. But now it has become, taken over and all that stuff. So we've built roads by, I have built a flat. Somebody needs to come to that flat. Therefore, we'll build a road. That kind of thought process. And to a certain extent, I think Bangalore has grown because in spite of itself. It's like, even if you look at the new parts of Bangalore, which are really, really far away, some parts of them have just evolved on their own.
Is there things that can be done in the indirect taxes? Because हर चीज पे मैं टैक्स दे रहा हूँ, लोगों को उससे दिक्कत हो रही है. Is that a valid argument or we are saying नहीं यार अब तुम्हारा डायरेक्ट टैक्स खत्म हो गया है तो दो टैक्स यहाँ पे?
नहीं, I think India will progress towards indirect taxes more and more until we become richer as a society. And then more people are paying direct tax. By the way, despite this, there will be more collections from corporate tax, from individual income tax, than we'll collect from corporates as a whole in India, despite this tax which I'm talking about. So, we used to be roughly 60 or 70% of our taxes were corporate taxes. I'm not counting indirect. Direct mein 60-70% used to be corporate taxes, 30% used to be personal tax. Now it's become 40% corporate tax, 60% personal tax, despite this 12 lakh. Because a lot of people are earning enough to be able to pay those higher amounts.
उन्हीं को तो दिक्कत हो रही है ना सर.
But ठीक है ना. What my funda is, what is the, I don't see this as a, like if you're earning 24 lakhs plus, which is when it starts to hurt, is it a really a big deal for you to pay taxes? Because I don't think, see,
कोई आगे बोलता है कि यार फिर नॉर्थ ईस्ट में सड़कें कैसे बनेंगी, कोई बोलता है हेल्थ केयर कैसे इंप्रूव होगा, बट फिर लोगों को दिक्कत ये हो रही है कि भाई मैंने क्या किया है, मतलब इफ़ आई हैव टू पे 30% तो मेरे को तो कुछ वापस मिल नहीं रहा है. माई किड्स आर नॉट गोइंग टू गवर्नमेंट स्कूल्स, माई किड्स आर नॉट, माई पेरेंट्स आर नॉट गोइंग टू गवर्नमेंट हॉस्पिटल्स, और मेरे को तो सड़कें भी नहीं मिल रही हैं. बट यू आर टेलिंग मी कि आई शुड बी द वन पेइंग टैक्स सो दैट someone sitting in Northeast is getting a subsidy.
Well,
so that's the argument.
Technically, right? AIIMS is a public hospital and you go to AIIMS. IITs are public institutes and you go to IITs. You want to go to IITs. NITs are, so technically some of the tax is paid for this at some point in time. We built this stuff. It's just not Northeast, it's also other places, Bihar and, relatively undeveloped places. Even in Karnataka, there are lots of places, Bidar and all that stuff that require development. I think to that extent we should be paying, not because we don't have unified equal kind of development across the country. I'm saying you should have equality of opportunity. मतलब मेरे पास अच्छे रोड है तो तुम्हारे पास अच्छे रोड होने चाहिए. Or in that sense, we don't have अच्छे roads, so everybody does not. But to that extent, while we're paying taxes, I think see, taxes are a problem. Because you kind of keep feeling कि यार मैं सिंगापुर में होता तो टैक्स नहीं देता. सिंगापुर देखो कितनी अच्छी है.
दुबई देखो अभी नए ट्वीट आ रहे हैं. दुबई हैज 60 लाख इनकम, माय टैक्स हियर इज सो मच, माय टैक्स इन दुबई.
मैं कह रहा हूँ जाओ.
मैं भी बोल रहा हूँ जाओ.
इनफैक्ट माय फंडा इज दिस, बैंगलोर में लिकर के टैक्सेस कम क्यों हुए? लिकर में they increase the taxes like crazy.
Yeah, it was very high, no?
Then they reduced it by 20%.
ये कब हुआ? Sorry.
ये very recently.
Okay.
This is about maybe 2 months ago.
Okay.
Why? Because people stopped drinking or taking amount from bars. They're saying कि boss बहुत costly मैं नहीं कर रहा हूँ. So they saw that boss मेरा अगर मैं tax बढ़ाऊँ और मेरा income ही कम हो जाए फिर total, because people are not consuming, then I might as well say forget. This is not the hi-fi bars that you guys are always visiting. I'm talking about the low end.
Yeah.
So people don't stop going to those bars, and they actually reduce the price of liquor, especially Indian-made foreign liquor and all that, across the board. So that in fact even single malts imported now are cheaper by roughly 10 to 15%. And Bangalore is ridiculously expensive.
Yeah.
So people started going to Delhi, picking up alcohol and coming back. But Delhi is much cheaper. Or to Bombay, airport mein ho.
There is a calculation which says if you specially go and you get 5 liters of say इतने रुपए के ऊपर की अल्कोहल तो भी सस्ता पड़ेगा. हाँ, अगर आप स्पेशली जाओगे.
इनफैक्ट गोल्ड में ये होता, गोल्ड में इंडिया यूज्ड टू चार्ज 15% ड्यूटी. 15% फॉर 1 kg इज रफली अबाउट 12 लाख रुपीस. 12 लाख रुपए में आपका टिकट भी हो जाएगा. और आप उसको अपने पॉकेट में लाओ, जो भी जिस तरफ भी स्मगल कर. अब कुछ आता है पकड़े गए कि आपने ऐसे वॉच में या बेल्ट में डाल दिया. आपने किसको पकड़ा? 1% को पकड़ा. 99% लेके आ गए कहीं किसी ना किसी तरह से. तो स्मगलिंग तो आपका हो ही रहा है क्योंकि लुक्रेटिव है. 15% टैक्स आपने टैक्स कम करके 6% कर दिया. अब उससे स्मगलिंग भी कम हो जाएगी. बिकॉज स्मगलिंग से क्या होता है कि सारा पैसा जो है इट गोज टू बूट लेगर्स एंड क्रिमिनल्स. who are therefore the money is out of the system in the sense of, and plus it's used for nefarious purposes. Drugs ke liye chala gaya, ye wo, whatever, all those extortion type, those kind of people. Why are you letting them make the money? Just charge lesser tax and you'll get more compliance. That's happening. They'll charge lesser tax, you will get more compliance. Prices will not come down right now because of all sorts of geopolitical issues, but at least the arbitrage wala smuggling khatam ho jayega. This is good for you as a country in general because you don't want this smuggling business to happen. Same thing with taxation. I am telling you now that you should be proud to be paying taxes because now that means you're earning more than 24 lakhs, no? Or at some level, the fact that you're cribbing the...
Wrong argument. Sorry.
I mean, no, I'm not saying that it means
Your
you have
problem, you
more
earn more. That is what you're saying.
No, so my funda is this. When you earn more, you pay tax, but you keep 70% plus, sometimes more, or 60% plus of what you earn. It's like me saying I built a company. I sold it for 100 crores. And now I'm cribbing that I have to pay 12.5 crores in taxes. If I didn't build the company, I would not have that 88 crores. मतलब क्या ही करोगे आप? At some level, yes, and tax rates in India are not very high. Norway is 50%.
But a lot of people who are like smart like you talk about this, right? कि मतलब control inflation, consumption बढ़ेगा, ये होगा, and then, but it doesn't seem to be happening, right? मतलब it's probably in that echo chamber of Deepak Shenoy and all the people की ये बात करते हैं.
Okay, consumption is improving because if more GST is being collected, that's for sure. But is the consumption happening because more people are ordering from Zomato? Or is it because they're more ordering from quick commerce, but the pie is now being spread between Flipkart Minutes and Zepto and Zomato and Swiggy and some other guy, Big Basket. They're all coming in and taking pieces of the pie. But the pie is growing. It's just that each person has a smaller percentage of the pie. So Zomato's earnings look like, oh, yaar, ye to grow nahi ho raha hai. Whereas if you look at the whole pie, it's growing because government is collecting more GST. How can it collect more GST if the, this thing isn't going, pie isn't growing? So that could also be one thing. The second one is that this particular tax is very interesting. The change. If you're earning 24 lakhs, you will save 1,10,000 rupees from next year. If you're earning 2 crore 75 lakhs, you will save 1,10,000 rupees. You do not save more because you are earning more. It is not a percentage difference. The percentage difference में क्या होता है? The richest people save a lot of money, but they don't spend. इंडिया में स्पेंडिंग का कल्चर ही नहीं है. वो जो पैसा बनाता है वो बोलता है मैं Fiat कार चला रहा हूँ.
अरे नहीं सर, luxury spending is also on a high, right? I mean,
it's nowhere compared to what you see in the rest of the world. Today, for instance,
that might be the issue.
I'll give you the example. Today
आप अभी गोवा में वीकेंड पे होटल सर्च करो और उसको प्राइस हाई टू लो से करो and all the 5 stars will be booked.
Yes.
I'm saying luxury spending is
no, it's there, but the luxury spending is what? Still 30,000 rupees a night, unless it's for special festivals, right? 30,000 rupees a night 20 years ago was luxury spending. It is still 30,000 rupees, maybe 10. So I remember I paid 10,000 rupees a night for the Taj in 2005. 2005 की बात है, 10,000 rupees a night. Today the same Taj may be 25,000 rupees a night. It's 20 years. Now in 20 years, at just inflation, you should have been 4 times. Just saying that. Not 4 times. 20 years में 4 times is 2 times in 10 years. 2 times in 10 years is 7%. 7% inflation तो है ही है. तो 20 साल में it should have become 4 times, 40,000
on its own.
On its own. It's roughly, maybe it's a little bit less than that, but it's there. And you now had a GST and a bunch of other things and all that stuff. So it's all, so I don't think this is meaningful from an increase in this thing perspective. But yes, it is, but this is not super spending. That's what I'm trying to say. If it is super spending when you pay 1 lakh a night, right? It's gone crazy, and that's also because supply and demand characteristics are different. But I say this: we don't. The luxury spending is there, but the really rich in the country don't spend. We find it a problem when Ambani spends 7,000 crores on a wedding. Boss, वो पैसे का करेगा क्या? खर्च तो करे. If he goes and spends 7,000 crores on a wedding, we should be congratulating him. पैसा आ रहा है ना बाकी लोगों को. It may be going to some foreign actors and all that, some of it, but a large majority of it gets spent in India in this thing. What is the point of owning 70,000 crores of assets and not spending it? And what are you going to do? Leave it to your kids when you die, and they'll also keep it and they'll leave it for their kids. ये culture है problem India में. The richest in India are कंजूस. The poorest in India want to spend. This saving culture that we have, it is an endemic part of it. We see a few people who spend. In Bangalore, the problem is people don't spend more than it is that people spend. I'm telling you this from this thing. In Delhi, it's probably the other way around. People spend what they don't have. I've grown up in Delhi, so I know the culture and the difference is.
Delhi, you're saying, is a representation of North, basically.
I don't know about the North because I haven't stayed so many places in the North to know this. Because in Punjab, there are people who are really rich and who really spend. It's like that you have your money.
अभी वो आया था ना वो CS सार्थक का कुछ तो उसने बताया था कि highest spending places लुधियाना, मोहाली, कोची. In the sense, like this tier 2, tier 3 stuff.
लुधियाना में लोग मर्सिडीज पे खर्च करते हैं.
Yeah.
लुधियाना में फिर भी poor people हैं.
Cars are sold in that city.
Yeah, but that according to me is show off assets.
Yeah.
शो ऑफ एसेट्स के लिए किसी का फायदा नहीं बनता है बिकॉज वो मर्सिडीज को जाना पैसा थोड़ी इंडिया को आ रहा है मतलब इन द सेंस ऑफ इफ यू वांट टू मेक अ कल्चर रिच अ प्लेस रिच then Ludhiana should be the tourist capital of the country because there's so much money. इतने 5-star होने चाहिए, इतने मतलब ये सारी चीज़ें जो होनी चाहिए should be so much that we should all be saying यार लुधियाना चलते हैं तो कुछ तो होगा. But you go to Ludhiana and you find out that there are people who are rich and then they're a very ordinary city. Yeah. It's nice. It's not I'm not saying it's a bad, but it's not so spectacular कि boss इतने लोगों के पास इतना पैसा है कि now they will the same guy who buys the Mercedes does not want to spend 300 rupees per dish on a meal. I mean, I'm just saying तो वो हफ्ते में एक बार या 2 हफ्ते में एक बार जाएगा बाहर वो कल्चर नहीं है. नहीं मैंने मर्सिडीज़ खरीदनी क्योंकि मुझे दिखाना है कि मेरे पास मर्सिडीज़ है क्योंकि मेरे नेबर के पास है, मेरे कज़न के पास है, जो भी है. इट्स लाइक यू नो द टॉमी हिलफिगर प्रॉब्लम. मेरे पास टॉमी नहीं है तो मैं हूँ कि नहीं हूँ, यू नो दैट वे. सो इट्स एट सम पॉइंट इफ यू आर डूइंग दैट्स अ वेस्ट ऑफ इवन द स्पेंडिंग. दिस स्पेंडिंग ऑफ showing off spending is a waste. The best way to calculate if people are showing off or not is to find out how much how well people are spending on experiences that are otherwise not show offable. Like मैं गोवा जा रहा हूँ is no longer showing off. तो जो if people are going to Goa a lot and people are saying कि नहीं गोवा नहीं जा रहे हैं, Bangkok
what do you spend on without putting an Instagram story is
yeah, so that becomes your cultural, you know, kind of a spend. People do this for religious spending. Look at the Kumbh. Now there is layers of Kumbh spenders who are probably Instagramming it also, but there is spending going on. So what I'm trying to say over here is that this spending culture is what will effectively, by the way, reduce your income tax also later. Because the more government starts collecting in all of these other sources, the more they will eventually say कि यार मतलब income tax कम कर दो, लोग खुश हो जाएंगे, उसका खर्च करें. This 1,10,000 is like that. I'm going to get the same 1,10,000 benefit if I'm earning 24 lakhs or 3 crores. So the guys who get it are likely to spend it if they're earning more money. Yeah. This is great because it pushes the economy. And why is it necessary? Because the whole world is becoming insular. अमेरिका कह रहा है कि इंपोर्ट नहीं करना है, यूरोप तो वैसे ही सब कुछ मना कर रहा है, वीज़ा नहीं देता साला. एंड ऑन टॉप ऑफ दैट यू नो अदर कंट्रीज आर देयर इजी बट दे डोंट हैव द पॉपुलेशन ग्रोथ एंड स्केल दैट वी हैव. सो इट्स बेटर दैट इंडियंस स्पेंड and Indians create companies to service them so that we don't also have to import everything for. So I mean, अब ballpoint pen भी import करके सोचो यार, मतलब ballpoint pen नहीं बना सकते आप.
So the argument that so are we going towards abolition of income tax? हर बार होता है ये.
Abolition तो नहीं होगा क्योंकि the richest people will always pay. And by the way, the richest people will pay so much tax, it will be greater than all the companies put together paying in India. I'll tell you that for a fact. America also has a progressive tax system. A lot of the people who make very little money, $40,000, don't pay tax. I think that's true. That's now true for India. 12 lakhs is about $15,000 a year. It's not that much this thing. But you don't pay any tax up till that point. The cost of collecting tax below a certain point is painful. And at 12 lakhs without any rebates, which means you're not going through hoops कि यार मेरे को 50,000 डालने, 1 लाख यहाँ डाल, खर्च करो जो करना करो आप, बस उसको
आईफोन खरीदो.
हाँ, but in the end make the iPhone here also. But I'm saying that you know your ecosystem spreads by the spending power. And I am saying this now, people will tell me that Deepak यार ये क्या तुम spending करोगे तो लोग debt में चले जाएंगे ये वो. I said यार है, yes, there are people who overspend, who take debt and spend and all that stuff. But when you culturally have been a saving country, it takes a lot of effort to even balance the equation a little bit. 30% saving rate, say you bring it down to 15, you're still fine. But you're now at 25 or 26 or 20 or something like that. It's still quite high for a country that deserves, because पहले क्या होता था, लोग बचाते थे पैसा, गवर्नमेंट खर्च करती थी. कहती थी यार हमारे पास पुअर लोग हैं, उनको खाना देना है, वो ये करना है, वो ये करना. अब गवर्नमेंट कह रही है यार मैंने बहुत कर लिया, आप तुम लोग करो ना प्लीज़ जो करना है. हमने हाईवे बना लिए, आपने होटल बनाना है. आप बैंगलोर से, मैं जाता हूँ गोवा ड्राइव करके, चित्रदुर्गा के बाद हुबली आता है, वो करीबन 200 किलोमीटर का डिस्टेंस है, एक नहीं है डिसेंट ढंग का होटल
रास्ते में ना.
हाँ,
रास्ते में क्या चित्रदुर्गा में? चित्रदुर्गा
के बाद
हाँ.
के उसके बाद सो चित्रदुर्गा तो ठीक है, वहाँ पे 2-3 नहीं है. फिर हुबली जाओ, हुबली के पास हैं थोड़े से, बीच में कुछ नहीं है, क्लीन लूज नहीं है. आप किसी वुमेन के साथ जा रहे हो तो दे विल नॉट स्टॉप एट समथिंग एंड दिस थिंग, यू हैव टू फाइंड क्लीन लूज. समबडी हैज टू इन्वेस्ट इन दैट. किसने बोला? वो गवर्नमेंट थोड़ी करेगी. आपकी गवर्नमेंट होटल भी बनाए तो बाथरूम भी क्लीन करे. आप कुछ तो करो. आई मीन दिस थिंग बनाया ना रोड्स, लेकिन ये जो इकोसिस्टम बनाने का काम है ये हम नहीं कर रहे हैं, क्योंकि हम लोग इन्वेस्ट नहीं कर रहे, क्योंकि लोग खर्चा ही नहीं करते. कहते हैं कि हम होटल बनाएंगे तो कोई आता नहीं है, और आता भी है तो कहता 80 रुपये की आप चिकन बिरयानी दो, जो भी है. You know, that
I get your point.
Private consumption has been the largest driver of the Indian economy for a long time because of our population. But if that population spends a little more, incremental benefits to the economy downstream are much higher. We don't make our own toys. India mein 90% of toys are imported. I mean, other than the crappy ones, we have horrible labor laws which does not allow us to. So how do you promote this? By creating a culture that says, boss, we are spending, we are going to create it, our toys. And I'm not saying कि इंडिया स्पेसिफिक, मतलब वो
शार्क टैंक में देखा ना आपने, वो पिच यही होती है कि 95% of toys of are imported.
Which my funda is make the same kind of toys. I mean, it doesn't matter. You don't have to make like Indian historical. वो सब छोड़ो यार, मतलब वो जो है अलग है. But you just make toys that our kids like, and it's not like it's difficult. I'm just saying that we haven't even thought about it. We haven't even built that thought process, that the amount of VC funding that goes into 10-minute delivery. If eventually, at one point, it will go, because the demand will come, and they will build toys. It's just that if people spend enough on it, and we will, for the nature of things, and we will get there. I find it surprising that for building a Taj Mahal out of that plastic thing, वो जो 3D वाला होता है ना, वो सारी चीज़ें चाइना बन के आती हैं. यार वो एक चीज़ है, उस पर डाई है बस. It's not even complicated to make it.
It's economics of scale वहाँ पे बहुत ज़्यादा है.
Is it that bad that we can't make it here? And therefore now, by the way, when we introduce more than 10-15% duty on Chinese toys and all that stuff, those things have gotten more expensive, but still nobody is making them in India. I find that surprising, but
the purchasing power of parents is also very high now.
And this thing is 200 rupees. It's not even like it's a purchasing power problem. But a lot of inefficiencies, and things are changing. Logistics is changing. I'm very hopeful that this changes, but hopefully this 1,10,000 rupees, coming back to the tax number, will help you spend at least something on stuff that you like.
No, it will, 100%. When I look at people in our company, like I know young kids who are at that 12 lakh level, and it's incredible. 10,000 rupees is a lot. I mean, I imagine them spending a lot, not saving. जबकि हमारे पीछे अलग है वैसे यार जार.
I mean, it's not like we have a dearth of avenues to spend on, but I think we are in the early stages of a change of culture. And it's fascinating to me, because I'm 50, and things 25 or 30 years ago were totally not like this. So it's very interesting to see it happen. And I know that you have a different view, because you're probably watching it happen from a very different vantage point. And you're like, क्या है, मतलब कॉन्सर्ट ही नहीं जा सकते, जगह नहीं है पार्किंग की, वगैरह वगैरह वगैरह. मैंने कहा पहले तो कॉन्सर्ट ही नहीं था, जाके पार्क कर सकते थे जिंदगी भर. तो मतलब करते क्या फिर उसके साथ.
मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि वो अलग जनरेशन है, जैसे आपको लगता है कि हम अलग जनरेशन है. बट एनीवे, कमिंग टू द लास्ट थिंग, सो US and India, very interesting things happening har roz subah. So what's happening in the sense the tariff uncertainty, right? The markets reacting. So how do you think things are shaping up when after Trump has come to US, and what's in it for us?
Nothing's in it for us. So I'll tell you what is in it because what it will teach you is like this. When a child learns to walk, it will first kneel and then it will crawl and then it will hold something. There'll be a point at which it has to let go of that holding something and walk. Take it the confidence to walk. I think
India.
Trump is that thing we were holding on to, this America, world trade, हम लोग मतलब dollar रखेंगे ये वो and all that. Now you have been told, boss, you're on your own. Go and figure shit out. And now we have to go and figure this out. This means we are not going to, we should stop depending on things like, oh, America will keep importing from, we anyway don't. China figured this out long time back. That boss, America is not going to be the only source of everything. China's cities are better than most US cities by such a large distance. It's almost amazing people have been able to keep it out of the news. It's like these are futuristic cities they live in. They've cleaned themselves of pollution. They've cleaned themselves of and whatever draconian actions, वगैरह वगैरह. They don't have electricity problems. They have more nuclear reactors than ever before. They have a better climate than in most other places. Whatever it is,
unless someone goes to China and comes back and says this is not
real. We don't see it.
Yeah.
We need that, but we're not going there. We know we need this, but we're not going there. You know what you need? You need one Trump to come and say, I don't care about the whole world. I used to care, but that was a different administration. Now I don't care. Even if you are getting some confidence that America will be the buyer of the world, we are not the buyer from you. We will buy from ourselves. India is one of the few countries that said, fine, we can also buy from ourselves. We are one of the few countries who can actually say that. China is the other one. Because we have a population, we have a manufacturing industry and all that stuff. We are one of the few countries that makes cars. Maybe not worldwide, this thing, but we do make cars. The point over here is we have the ability to change, and maybe this is our rude awakening. Maybe it only happens jab diwar pe, when your back is to the wall is when you act, but that's what. So you're going to get tariffs. You're going to get tariffs against you. You're going to get nasty things being said. You're going to get people being told ki sare Indians ko deport karo, legal or illegal. This kind of thing is going to hurt us in the short term because we'll be like, kya ho raha hai? But it will make us stronger in the long run because we will survive. We have survived through a lot of shit, and we will survive any of this if we have, in that sense, a common enemy is a good thing. You want a common enemy. Right now, your enemy is that person speaks that language, this person speaks this language. Nahi, malla, tumhara skin color alag hai, ye hai, wo hai. This drama. You give me a unified enemy and a unified thing, then things change. Maybe that's the only bright spot in this whole thing. Nothing good is going to come to it, even for America. But I don't care about America. That's their problem. They don't know what's right for them. It doesn't matter to me. What matters to me is he's forcing us to act, and that's a good thing. Because I think a lot of things that I've been shouting about for the last 10 years has been, free the rupee, make the rupee more internationalized. Nobody was willing to take that first. Karenge to US will get angry. But he's getting angry anyway. Yeah. You might as well do it. What difference does it make? Gussa hoga, tariff lagayega fir. Now you do tariffs on Canada and Mexico and all that stuff which he's doing today. Let's see what happens tomorrow. In 2 days, they'll make some random excuse and say, we are pausing the tariffs for a few days because of
so funny, I mean,
it's amazing.
But it's the tactics. It's like, आज मैं 10% लगाता हूँ, फिर एक reaction आएगा और फिर मैं बोलूँगा pause कर देंगे. But he gets what he wants, right? In the sense.
I don't know if he gets what he wants. I think he's the epitome of, I will try, and if it doesn't work to my favor, I will back out by using some kind of face-saving measure. Canada was anyway going to put $1.3 billion and 10,000 soldiers on the border. 3 months ago, they decided. But now they have said they'll do it again. He said, okay, quickly, let's get rid of tariffs. Because nobody wants those tariffs because it hurts American people, right? Yeah. So and Canadians. Now he's putting
tariffs. But it's like, मैंने tariff लगाया तो ये हो गया.
So he gets the face save. Yeah. So, but why did he do that? He didn't intend to do it. It wasn't like he was like, shit, this is too bad. too draconian, but I can't back off. So let me get them to agree to something. They also said, I'll agree only to what I've already agreed to. But don't say it like that. Say that you have worked with me. Now, eventually, people are going to figure this out. कि boss ये तो मतलब बोलता है कुछ करता नहीं. But this is those first 3 months of finding out. After 3 months, there will be some. He will want to stay in the news, so he'll keep pushing this rhetoric more and more American jingoism and all that stuff. This is great for us because it forces us to stand up on our own. And for the longest time, we've never really tried to stand on our own. We don't make our own toys. We don't make our own sewing machines. We don't make anything. And we've always had a threat against China. China has always been more superior in terms of technology, in terms of investment, education, all that stuff. We've never focused on it meaningfully. We said, okay, हाँ ठीक है जो भी है import कर लो यार, LED light वहीं से आ जाएंगे. नहीं बनाते हम LED light. We don't make semiconductors. We never created fabs. We never did anything to progress our technology meaningfully. Hopefully this route, this awakening, whatever it is the way for us to find a nature. I don't think we will succeed in all spheres. We will have to give in and say कि boss जो चाहिए बोलो, tariff कम करो, ये वो, whatever. But at some level, we will change and the world will change, and that world change will be in our favor. Mostly because of the demographics. We are younger as a country, and younger people always find a way to survive.
Yeah.
It's a thing. But don't expect this to be good. That's the true reality of this everyday changing culture. Is you're going to need to find alternatives, and all this drama, this China versus America, you have seen the first 5% of it. The rest of the story will unfold in the next 3 or 4 years, and Trump will have a hissy fit every time China does something, and so will Elon Musk. We are in a new, it's a new era, new zamana. I'm very optimistic. I'm like, yeah, this new India I like. I think this will be fun.
Anything for the IT bill?
Let's wait for the IT bill, yaar. I am hoping that it is actually a reduction in pain rather than an increase in it. But it will be discussed for a year, and lots of changes will come. So
I think primarily it is simplification of how the.
कभी भी आपने किसी को simplification बोल के actually simplification देखा आपने? Because very rare it actually happens. So plus first draft will be simple, last draft will be complex. You know that. So because it's evolutionary, क्या ही comment करोगे? I hope it is simple, उतना ही बोल सकता हूँ. I think beyond that, I don't think there will be any tax changes, and maybe some of the suggestions may be complicated in the sense that it will increase your taxation net.
ठीक है, थैंक यू सो मच. आई थिंक हमने बहुत सारी बातें करी. थैंक यू.
लवली, ऑसम.
The value of one photo like this is much more than 100